Welcome back. Let's play some pool. And also, let's answer this question. Should a sports broadcaster spill the beans? In other words, give away secrets when players tell them things? Should they tell their audience? Because that'll make a fun broadcast. Let's answer that question right now. All right. This is a good one because oftentimes, not a bad break. When you're a sports broadcaster, you're around players, you're around the team, you're around the coaches. And by doing your job, you're gathering information always. As you're preparing for a game, as you're preparing for a season, you're always gathering a lot of information just by being around the team. I'll use a minor league baseball example because that's one of the scenarios I was in. I also was in the college basketball setting when I broadcast for Army basketball at West Point. And so I can tell some stories about that too. But let's say you're working for a minor league baseball team and you're hanging out with the team all the time. You're in the clubhouse, you're on the team bus, you're at the batting cage. If you find things out, should you tell them on the air? Well, this is a good golden rule that I always used to go by, and it served me well. And a lot of it was developed by working with Marty Glickman at Fordham University. I would never say anything on the air that I wouldn't say in front of a player or a coach. So that's number one. That's a great rule of thumb. If it's not something I would want them to know that I said, I wouldn't say it on the air. So that's a good rule of thumb. Number two, if they asked me to keep something a secret, unless it was a real extenuating circumstance, I would keep it a secret. Now, obviously, I'm not talking about major things that an audience should know. But for example, let me tell you this. I had a player come to me one day, broadcasting minor league baseball. He was from the West Coast, and I was broadcasting for a team on the East Coast. And, I thought I was going to get that. And this player said to me, "Hey, Rick, do me a favor." I mean, he was married, he was young, he was in his 20s. He said, "Please don't ever say on the air anything about me being married." I said, "Really?" I said, "Okay, why not?" He said, "Because my family doesn't know." So I said, "Okay, I'm not going to spill those beans. I'm not going to give that away." And there was obviously a lot of different things that I wouldn't say on the air. Another golden rule was, if it impacted the game, then it was in my realm. If it happened on the field, it was in my realm. I was broadcasting radio at the time. And so my job as a radio announcer was to put my listener with me as if they're watching the game, so they could see it in their mind's eye. And so anything that I saw or heard or thought, that was all fair game because I'm trying to give my listener the experience. So that was a frame of reference that I went into it with. So if something happened during the game, it's all fair game. If I knew something from the clubhouse, from being in there, and I knew a player wasn't feeling 100%, but it wasn't public knowledge, that's not something I would talk about. Because it was only something I knew because I was in the clubhouse. And those lines get somewhat blurred because I would hang out with the players. I was the same age. And so as a broadcaster, you want to consider your long-term relationship. You can't go, it's just like life. It's just like any communication skills. You have to use correct judgment and not burn bridges, not burn relationships. If someone told you something, I'm going to have to use the bridge for this one. If someone told you something and they said don't say anything, or you just knew this isn't something they would want me to say, you would either never say it or you would never compromise that person's trust by getting them in trouble. So that's another golden rule about what to divulge on the air and what not to. So let's say I was in the clubhouse and I saw a player wasn't feeling well, or if I saw a player got benched for a certain reason, maybe he was out late at night and the manager got upset and benched him. Unless it was a public thing where they put out a press release, I'm not going to go somewhere and divulge something that they wouldn't want me to divulge because I wasn't supposed to know it in the first place. So that's a good rule of thumb. Number 1 or number 2, whatever number that was. Okay, let me give you another example. There was an instance during one year broadcasting where in the middle of the game, there was some kind of commotion down the line, down the right field line, towards the clubhouse, towards the clubhouse area, the bullpen area is really where it was. So on the air, as I'm watching this, as we're watching it, it was my partner and I, we're discussing that there's something going on down the right field line. Umpires called timeout. A manager or a coach ran down the line into the clubhouse. They stopped play for about, 5 minutes or so. Ooh, that was nice. So as we're describing the action. This is what's happening right now. Over the next 24 hours, we learned that what happened was 2 players got in a fight in the bullpen, 2 players on the same team. And the next day, we went to the manager and said, before the pregame show, which was taped, before the recorder started recording, hey, just to let you know, we've heard it was 2 players getting into a fight, and so I'm going to have to ask you about this on the interview. Well, the manager wasn't happy, but that was the proper way to handle it because it happened during the game. Everyone saw it. It stopped the action, and then we later found out what happened. And to top it off, we did the right thing by giving the manager a heads up that, listen, oh, that was nice. It doesn't happen every day. We gave the manager a heads up saying we're going to have to ask about this. And so that was how to handle that tricky ethical question. The manager was unhappy. The players involved were unhappy for a time, but it smoothed over. But that answers the question, should I spill the beans? The default for the broadcaster should be no. It should be no. If it happens on the game, on the field, on the court, during the action, the default should be yes. And then you've got to wade through those ethical waters situation by situation and using a couple of the golden rules we talked about. Never say something on the air you wouldn't want to say to that player's face, and never divulge information publicly if there's a question that maybe it's not something I should be divulging. All right, so I hope that helps. I forgot to call that 8-ball corner pocket. I hope that was a helpful episode. Leave a comment. Tell me where I'm wrong. If you have any other ethical questions, ask me in the comments. And definitely make sure to subscribe. You may already be subscribed. It wouldn't surprise me. So I answered this question. We'll do another one soon. Make sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time.